Hey guys, this is Ryan from El Topo Loco, giving you guys a deck profile on King Vegeta. We also have a guest with us, Giancarlo from Team Foe slash PPG. How you doing, Giancarlo?
What's up, man? Good. Thanks for having me on, man. Glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming. So, we're going to be talking about King Vegeta. Over the last few months, Giancarlo and I have talked about King Piccolo here and there because that deck was nuts, and most people slept on it for the longest time. And now everybody knows it is really good. And when he posted about this on his team page for King Vegeta, I slept on it for the longest time. I was actually trying to build Bardock because I'm a red player, so I was like, Bardock's the way, and like he's pretty decent, but he's nothing like probably meta defining. But he was going on about King Vegeta, so I looked at his profile and I was like, hey, this is pretty similar to the Red Green launch. I played that a bunch, so let me try it out, and I gotta say it's nuts. I just had an untap tournament with a bunch of really good players, and I ended up getting first with this deck. It just some games weren't even like fair. It felt like this is a really good deck. So I made some edits from his original deck, but it is like mostly his build and his ideas. So I'm definitely got to give him credit where credit is due. But we're gonna
Well,
be
I'll tell you, it's not my ideas at all. I just stole it from one of my teammates. So that's the cool thing about Dragon Ball, man. Is like I like shit getting passed around, and like everybody adds their own little spice to it. So I
Mhm.
mean, I love it, man. It's cool that as a community we can come together and like collaborate in one way.
Yeah, for sure. And like that's the cool thing about just deck profiles in general. And I'm like originally I was all about like having to make original stuff. But even the most original stuff, you're always stealing little pieces of decks from everybody else and trying to make it your own and always trying to come up with these neat combos. But in the end, people net deck for a reason because, people figure things out and they're like, hey, how can I make this better? And that's the whole point of deck building, right?
Exactly. Yep.
All right. So we have my deck profile up again, mostly Giancarlo's, but I adjusted some ratios, maybe changed a few cards here and there. But so we're gonna start it with the deck. Basically, this is King Piccolo Jr. or not King Piccolo Jr., just Piccolo Jr. the Eradicator, and trying to make this card as abusable as possible. But of course, we also have the King Vegeta package. So this is just like Burn City. You're burning them as much as possible. You're pushing a lot of aggro, and typically you can end the game turn 3. But some games you could actually end turn 2 if you just draw the nuts and put all that pressure on them, and they have no answers to it. So first, we're looking at King Piccolo. I'm sorry, Piccolo Jr., the Eradicator of Peace. If you guys don't know, he has Alliance red green. You're going to tap a red or green card. You gain that power. If they have 3 or more life, they're going to burn 1 damage. So ideally, you could triple strike them. Essentially on their turn 2 with this card. And the coolest part about this is you also draw 2 cards. So even if they negate, you're burning 1 as long as they're at that 3 or higher, and you're drawing 2. So it just feels good. Um, so what do you think about this card?
So like the general theme, or I'd say like the thing in the early game about this deck is uninteractable damage. So like,
Mm-hmm.
um, that's the cool thing about burn decks, right? And so you have your young invaders, and those deal uninteractable damage. Your opponent has no choice but to take that damage. Same thing with like Piccolo Jr., right? So even if they negate his attack, it's still going to get a damage through. So by the time you use like 2 young invaders and 1 Piccolo, your opponent's probably already at 4 life. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So they start the game so low that it becomes really easy to deal the additional 4 damage. And then if they don't negate Piccolo Jr., yeah, they're gonna take. He's huge, right? You
Mm-hmm.
combine him with like Alliance is like such a crazy skill because like Piccolo Jr. usually becomes like a 40k, right? So like
Yep.
they're not gonna out combo a 40k, you know what I mean? And if they do, it's gonna take the whole hand. So like swinging with him one time, you draw 2, and then they take 3 damage, or they lose like 5 cards out of hand. It's huge plus.
Yep.
Card's amazing.
And if they try to out combo anything, especially like since you're hitting them down to maybe 4-3 life in those early turns, they're going to have to start defending life. So they are going to have to either negate, block, or most likely out combo a bunch of things. So even if they survive those early turns, you're drawing cards, they're losing cards. It's just they're bleeding cards essentially, and you're going to get that win eventually unless they do something out of the blue that you didn't expect. All right, so
Oh,
you did
yeah. Yep.
mention the invaders. Oh wait, did you want to say something?
Oh no, yeah, no. Piccolo Junior is it's pretty much the linchpin of the deck, right? The way
Yeah.
I play it is I like mulligan for it, that or we play assimilate, right, which
Yep.
searches Piccolo Junior. So you want to charge a green and a red. You always want to Piccolo on two because you have a strong chance of killing on two.
Mm-hmm.
Your opponent has to have a way to negate the attack. Otherwise, there's a strong chance that they can die on turn two.
Mm-hmm. And so I have Assimilate up right now. This is just a free card that will let you find your Piccolo Juniors. And at the very worst, you can actually use it to find Kami in here. And you could either use that as a charge if you don't have that green to charge by turn two, or you could use it as combo power. But we want to run some Kami in here just so if you happen to draw your pieces or somewhere in life, it's not like a waste of a card because basically at that point, Assimilate only has two purposes. If you don't have any targets in the deck, it's either to fuel your Overwhelm or you're basically using it as fodder to discard or bottom deck with some of your effects. So you want to get as much advantage of Assimilate as possible, and it does thin your deck. And as they always say, deck thinning is deck winning. All right, so
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, so your leader searches a red energy, basically. Like you look at the top five and out of red. Mm-hmm. So your leader searches red energy and Assimilate searches green energy, along with just allowing you to play 6 copies of Piccolo Junior Eradicator. So yeah, Assimilate is a really good card.
All right, cool. So actually let's go back to the leader. So even though King Piccolo is like the bread and butter of this deck, going to the leader, you start with the invaders card in play, and basically at the beginning of every one of your opponent's turn, you're going to play one of those young invaders. We're running Raditz and Vegeta. I might adjust these ratios. I know you kind of adjusted the cards and ratios. We'll talk about that in a second. But I run 2 Vegeta and 4 Raditz. But essentially, both of those cards on their turn will burn them from 1. They do draw a card, so it's almost like they take a life, but it's like a pseudo crit. I mean, like I've critted like a baby hatch from life, which felt really nice. But like they're drawing a card, so they're essentially getting that card from their deck. But like Giancarlo said earlier, it's basically uninteractable unless they try to counterplay it. But that feels probably bad for them to counterplay a card like that. And then they kind of stick on the field because they have 1 cost 5k power, so they actually have to spend their energy to try to combo those cards off. So a lot of times they just stick on the board and they allow you to use some of your other effects. Anything to add on that so far?
Okay, yeah. So my ratios, I actually just went down to 4 Vegeta. Part of that is because I'm kind of cheap and I don't want to buy 4 Raditz.
I don't blame you.
But because we only play Vegeta cards, we don't actually need Raditz. So the good thing about Raditz is that, what would you call these cards? I don't know, King Vegeta minions, like
yeah.
You have to bottom deck a specific one. So Vegeta has to bottom deck Vegeta or Raditz. Goku has to bottom deck Goku or Raditz. So because I'm only playing Vegeta, I don't need the flexibility that Raditz adds. So I just ended up playing 4 Vegeta because I actually hate drawing these cards. You can't combo them when you're unawakened. And you definitely awaken turn 2 every turn, so it's not that big of a deal. But I don't see the purpose in running more than 4. I just
so
you only ever actually need 1 in deck. So like as long as I have that 1 in deck, I'll be alright.
So like the reason why I do like 6, and I might adjust it to a 3 and 3 because Vegeta is actually the best one. He just has unique, so I mean it's not the worst because a lot of times you are bottoming it, so it's not a big deal having unique if you get rid of it every single turn. But I like having 6 just because I have had few in life and maybe drawn to after the mulligan or something like that. So I only have a few targets, and putting them back to the bottom of the deck sometimes is frustrating if you don't have the right cards to do that. So, and I've also have seen opponents that do actually spend the energy to combo them or pop them with a Belmont or whatever the case is. So then once they get like drawn out in one way or another, then your deck is less effective. But they're really only important in the early game. So if the deck or if the game does draw longer than turns 3 or 4, they're not that important anymore, except for free play stuff. But ideally, you're killing turn 2, turn 3 anyway.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I don't know, bro. I'm not gonna lie. So like, I don't know the exact number of games I've played with King Vegeta. It's probably like somewhere in the 50s or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I've like never once had an issue with them not being in deck. Like they're consistent enough to where like you'll just always have them. That's just my logic when I'm playing it now because it's like again, as long as I see if I see one in deck, like all right, I won't even put it on my opponent's side of the board. I'll put it on my side of the board,
Mm-hmm.
and that way, like I can just put it on the bottom with my Vegetas. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the nice thing about this Vegeta too is not only does it burn them, when so this goes on your opponent's side, and the effect is really confusing at first. Both of the or I'm not sure if all the young invaders read this, but it says if your opponent's leader is King Vegeta, which you're the guy playing King Vegeta, and it's going on their side of the field, so it's basically saying you're playing that leader. And then it will burn the card. They draw that card, but also he has the effect where the first time you swing on your turn, it will subtract whatever card you're swinging into by 5k. And this is actually pretty important against something like a Demigra Unison deck because it's almost like with the launch leader, you could just subtract 5 and automatically bring it from 2 to 1 on that turn one if you really want, and then they can't use their freezes anymore, and it kind of feels bad for them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Launch eats up Demigod. So like Young Invader, yeah, Frieza's like a huge pain in the ass because Eradicator of Peace gets killed by Frieza.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can cut them off of that charismatic villain, it gives them one less out. Yeah, they still have Dormant, but like
Yeah,
by giving them one less out, that's one less card you have to worry about.
exactly. And of course, it doesn't have to be on the unison. It could be on their leader. It could be on a battle card, but it has to be the first battle card or first thing you're swinging at. It will minus it, and it only works once per turn. But it is really, really good, especially since you're already aggroing them and you're making that next attack a lot harder for them to defend. Um,
Yeah, I really like swinging my critical into an unawakened leader with Vegeta on the field. So I'm swinging 19k into 5k for a critical. That's a guaranteed damage, pretty much.
Yeah, and if they're comboing their hands, unless they have like good super combos that they're willing to like waste early in the game, there's
Yeah.
no point of them out comboing it because they're losing more advantage than just taking the crit.
Exactly, yeah. And like shit, man. If my opponent uses double super combo, all right, good for you. That's two less. That's it.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
with this deck, it's like a race, and then it's a race to deplete your opponent's resources. So
Mm-hmm.
like the more super combos they have to use, that's fine because that just means the less they have. I don't want them to have four, but like if they have to use four, then I'm okay with that at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I know you said you play yours very aggro, and of course I do too with this deck, but I've also been
Yeah.
able to switch mid game to kind of play mid range and adjust my strategy. Or sometimes in some matchups, you don't want to aggro them. Um, and I kind of actually don't awaken right away because I'll take those hits early on and just like let them push me to 5, then I'll awaken because they're probably already less than 4. But then it gives like me more chances to absorb attacks rather than having to
Yeah.
like um, take the
Yeah.
cards in hand from the leader effect. But
Mm-hmm.
you could kind of play it whatever way you want and adjust whatever way you can. And my side deck is actually catered to kind of switch a little bit more to mid range if I feel like that's a better matchup for games 2 and 3.
No, I agree. Yeah, there's a lot of good decks. There's a lot of decks that are just really good at not dying, right? So there's like Baby, Mecha Frieza. Those decks are just hard to kill.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the games you're gonna have to switch to a mid range strategy
Mm-hmm.
because you're probably just not killing either of those decks on turn two.
Yeah.
Like the chance of you doing that is slim to none.
Mm-hmm. And if you do, they're probably a bad player. So
Right, yeah, they'd have to break so damn hard to not be able to deal with like all your shit on turn two. Like they have, like it's not Baby's gonna have the negate. Like there's no way Baby doesn't have the negate.
that'd be the weirdest thing ever. But yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to the field card, you could also on your own turn play one of your invaders with its skills negated, and that actually comes into play. We're going to talk about a card that combos with that really well. At first, I thought this combo was just like, oh, that's just a neat play. But after testing it, I'm like, oh, this is what I want to do turn one. Well, we'll get to that in 1 second. And the last thing is just minus a 5k by tapping a red. Choose one battle card minus 5k. It's mostly to be anti Black Mass Saiyan, but I mean, you can use this ability on your Awakened side as well and really subtract anything by 15 if you want to pay that 1 red energy. Anything else with that?
Yeah, absolutely. No, yeah, it says your deck does not lose. That's one thing about. I know you mentioned Bardock earlier,
Yeah.
right? I was watching somebody play Bardock against Vegex. Turn one, Vegex summoned BMS, and then just like Bardock immediately lost the game. So like this deck doesn't have that is because you have a card that starts in play that says kill BMS. So you're good to go.
And the funny thing is, when I built my Bardock, I had to make sure that I was playing as much anti BMS stuff. I played the Whis super combos, which
Yeah,
doesn't feel ideal at times, but it was good in there. Played the Yamchas,
yeah,
I played Death Balls, so I played enough
yeah.
cards to counter that one card. But again, I had to dedicate like 6 or 7 cards just because that was such a boogeyman. This deck doesn't have that problem at all.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and if like imagine like if this deck was weak to BMS, like you just literally couldn't play it because your entire deck says summon a 15k for free, except for like 4 or 5 cards. It's crazy.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
your leader also allows you to awaken when either you or your opponent, which is kind of cool, when your opponent has 4 or less energy, or yeah, 4 or less life, I should say. Um, so since you're going so aggro, they're going to be able to get down to 4 or less pretty easily, and especially with the invaders as well and the Piccolo burn. So they're going to go down, and if you want to untap and maybe play something else on top of it that turn, or have an energy open for a negate, whatever you want to do. But and you also will draw cards until you have 5 in life. So that's what I was kind of referring to earlier, that you can push and awaken whenever you want. Like, you almost always can awaken turn 2, but sometimes you do want to slow the game down and maybe switch to more of a mid range, and then you just take those early on hits instead, and then awaken whenever you think it's the best turn 2 awaken with.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a lot of cards that like just cost 1 energy. So turn 2, you want to play Piccolo Junior, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you attack with Piccolo Junior, your opponent's just going to be a 4 life. Like that's just the nature of this deck. So you're pretty much guaranteed to awaken turn 2, which then means you can play like Toa Dark Rejuvenator,
Mm-hmm.
or you can play a Great Sandman #2, or you can use that energy even to like do a SS Vegeta to the next level. So or like your Kai Seeker, right? Like so 1 energy always equates to more attacks, and
Mm-hmm.
like that's where this deck is really strong. And I think that is the exact reason that this deck is better than Launch, because when it awakens, it untaps 1, and
Mm-hmm.
Launch has no way to untap its own energy offensively, except
Yes.
for like like I mean, there's red blue with Sensu Beam, but like it's just that's not quite it.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you get 1 energy on, you get a additional energy on turn 2 means you can get like up to 3 more attacks. So like
Mm-hmm.
that 1 energy is huge.
Mm-hmm. And for me, when I played Launch, I know a lot of people play differently with their negates, but I always played free negates like After Image and Grand Eagle, because you always did tap out turn 2, which feels bad
Yeah.
sometimes. With this deck, I still play free negates, but I mean, I could do stuff for that one last energy, like you said, whether offensively or defensively. But you did
Yeah.
mention Dark Rejuvenator Toa, so might as well, let's talk about that right now. It's an overwhelm 3, costs 1 energy, so that's what on turn 2 you play Piccolo, you're tapped out, you awaken, you use that last energy to play this Toa, and then you get to restand your Piccolo, swing again. As long as you have another alliance target, you're critting them again. Most likely they're probably at 3 at that point, and double striking them possibly for the game, and then you could just dump your hand as long as you don't think they're going to do that secret rare with the lineage. But you could just dump your hand if you really want to, and if you don't want to, you're drawing 2, and then they're out comboing a bunch of other stuff again. So either way, it feels like a win-win.
No, yeah, exactly. Yeah, at the very worst, Dark Rejuvenator Toa is draw 2, deal 1 damage. Like it's the fact that Piccolo Junior attacks twice in 1 turn is amazing. It's again, like you said, like just the way the nature of the deck works is they're going to be at a low life total very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So any Piccolo attack could just be game because again, Piccolo is like a 40k base attacker most of the time. So like he's just huge, or 40k is a bit of an exaggeration, right? Like normally he's around 30k. 30k is a good number for
Yeah.
Piccolo. So he's huge, man.
Yeah, and just being a 16K alone means that they're going to probably have to combo one extra card anyway just to get over it. Actually, no, I'm sorry. That's on defense. They have to combo one extra card, so it's really easy to defend and keep alive if you need to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They can't effectively attack it with their leaders, so
Yeah.
it's some shit. Yeah.
Um, what else did I want to say? Oh yeah, I've there's been some games I played where they played the new like Topo, but for black, and I think I was playing Meki Kabora, and I was able
Yep.
to push through it because I was like, I'm drawing two cards anyway, so yeah, discard
Yeah.
Warper one or two, no big deal. I'm gonna get those cards back, and then they're tapped out, and you could just push through that, or like
Yep.
there's some other things you could do with that, but it feels pretty good.
Yeah. No, it's huge, man. Yeah.
All right, going back to the leader one more time. On the front side, you look at the top five, pick a red, mono red Saiyan, so you can't pick any multicolor, a five or less, which is most of your cards. But there, I mean, sometimes you do whiff on that. On the awakened side, it's just a draw one on the swing, but also once per turn, if you minus one of their battle cards, you do additional minus 10k to one of their battle cards. So obviously, it doesn't get through barrier, but you could use it with your field card, you could use it with some other card, and just really just make your defense a little bit easier.
Yeah, that's like the one thing that this deck lacks is that you don't really take advantage of that auto on the awakened side that often.
Yeah,
It's you're foregoing that to be more aggressive, which is like it's just a play style choice. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
if you want to attack, you're going to play this version, which is good. If you want to defend, you'll play a different version. That's also good. So both versions of the deck, I think, are pretty good, man. Like I definitely think both are going to be meta contenders. So I mean,
yeah.
you pick what you want to play based on your play style,
Mm-hmm.
and looking at the top five, you want like switching gears most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's pretty much all I'm looking for. You have Trunks Deluge of Power, which is another card that I really like. It's also a mono red Saiyan, so that's like pretty much that's a good option. You have your other Vegeta, which is a good option. So like yeah, and then you like you said, you can just awaken on turn two,
Mm-hmm.
so you can just draw a card off your attack if you don't want to search for a red Saiyan.
All right, yeah. And then a few other things. We're just going to go through some of them because some of them are just pretty basic. You got the Trunks free blocker with a multicolor, and most of the time you're going to use him as an alliance target because Piccolo is multicolor, so you play him. You can use that for a free alliance target. The nice thing about this compared to launch, I find it so much easier to get an alliance target because launch really relied either on the super combo Nappa or on that Trunks to really get that turn two burn off, unless you played
Yeah,
something on turn one. But this deck has so many free plays, no big deal on that.
yeah, exactly.
I run two Belmod. I find this card really great. I actually really like it because of you can actually use your field card and free play a vanilla card. Well, it's not vanilla. You're free playing one of your young invaders and playing it in rest mode, which doesn't matter because they only have 500, not even 5,000. They have 500 attack, so they're not going to do damage. But you have that free play, so then you're going to pop one of those guys anyway. So if you had three guys on the field and you didn't want to pop like a Piccolo Junior or something, play a free invader and pop that instead. Keep your Piccolo alive. Then you have either another 20 attack, 20k swing. You also get to pop a guy, or if you really want to, you can use him as a blocker. You mentioned Trunks Deluge. This is basically a super combo on any of your red battle cards, and use it on Piccolo most likely or any other guy, but it doesn't work on the green guys.
Yeah, I didn't think these cards were good. I'll say Johnny Tia, right? He's also on Topo Loca, right?
Yes.
I didn't think these cards were good for the longest time, and then I saw Johnny playing his Reboot Gohan deck at a New
Yes.
Jersey event. He goes, summon one drop Gohan that gains critical, swing combo with the green version. Mm-hmm. It's a 25k critical. Then he comboed with Champa, 35k double strike crit. And I was like, holy cow, these cards are so good. What the hell? Like, yep. So yeah. This card, like you said, it's a super combo. Combos for 10k. It's just another thing that makes Piccolo bigger, which makes Piccolo win the game even harder. So, and then again, Red saying to search off your leader.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Super combo, pretty self-explanatory. We picked Nappa. I thought about maybe trying one Raditz because, getting to 4 life is not too hard, and then it lets you dig through your deck. But for Nappa, 1 helps you with your arrival stuff, but also it's extra aggro because you get to use it twice essentially. So if you're really pushing for damage, it works for that. And then finally, it's an alliance target for your Piccolo Junior. this was one thing that I did a little bit different from you. My ratios of Gogeta arrival versus the Beerus Champa arrival are different. I like the Beerus Champa a little bit more, so I play him at 2 and I play Gogeta at 1. And I only play the Gogeta at 1 because he is searchable. He's not searchable off your leader's front side, but he is searchable off the critical Vegeta, which is nice. Beerus and Champa are not, but I like the ability to give one of my non-double strike guys double strike, and this could even pop something that's 20k that is not, what is it, 4 or less for Gogeta? I think it's 4 or less.
Yeah, Gogeta is 4 or less because it can't hit Demigra,
Mm-hmm.
overall Demigra, but Beerus Champa, you can use your leader ability to neg it to a 20k, and then Beerus Champa can kill it. So,
Yep.
yeah, Beerus Champa is definitely super good in this deck, and yeah, like I like to give my critical attacker double strike, so
Yep.
that's something I like to do.
Yeah. And then we have, of course, the partner with Piccolo is Bardock the Resolute. I cut mine down to 2. 3 felt good for a while if I wanted to go super aggro, but I kind of want to be able to switch to mid range. So I think this is good, but sometimes it does feel bad having drawing into one when you want combo power. But if you're just trying to go gas and just go face at them, maybe running 3 makes it a little bit more consistent. And you could always bottom deck these with some of your effects from your hand, so it's not terrible to have it at 3, but I personally liked it at 2.
Yeah, I agree with 2. I ended up I had it at 3 for a while, like you said, and like I would just draw it, and then you can't combo with it, and it has unique, right? So you can't play a second one. So you're just like, this card's whatever. Like it sucks in hand, good on field. So, but yeah, so you trigger it off your Piccolo Junior Eradicator, and then it's another double strike. So it's a 0 energy double strike. If they negate, it untaps, so you always attack with it first.
Yes.
And that way, if they negate anything, then guess what? I have another double strike. So, just gas. This deck is freaking crazy.
It's also important to note that this does not work off your invaders because the field card says that if you play an invader on their turn, you can only play mono red battle cards on your turn or for that rest of that turn. Mono red Saiyans, yes. So this is a Saiyan, but obviously it's not red. So they probably really put that text on the field card to prevent this play because it would be absolutely broken just getting that for free then I would run 3 or 4 of them if that was the case, why not?
Yeah, exactly. You can use Gogeta. It's just red Saiyan. It's not mono red, so you can still rival Gogeta as well.
Okay, that's a good point then. Yeah, that's a good.
And you can do Nappa, Gogeta. So yeah, it's just red Saiyans, which also prevents you from playing Yamcha on your opponent's turn if you were to play the Yamcha counterplay.
But you still do get the -15, so you could get the effect, but you can't get the actual play. So it could be still used, but not as optimally.
Exactly, yeah. I agree.
All right, so this is a promo-heavy deck. This is probably actually less promos than some people's versions because I feel like half the promo cards this set are like King Vegeta based, which is kind of unfortunate for everybody's wallets. But this Vegeta, the Super Saiyan switching gears one, is really, really good. Originally, we were both running the Gokus, but I found them underwhelming. But this card is just, it's only 10k, but this is an arrival target that you could play for free. It gets rid of a card from your hand that's dead or just not useful. Like maybe if you drew a young invader, put them on the bottom of the deck because you want them in the deck. Or maybe take a vanilla card, the 20k Goten that I have in here, put them on the bottom of the deck. Then allows you to draw 2 cards. So finding those Piccolo Juniors are pretty easy between this and Assimilate. And then you can only do it once per turn, but that's no big deal. You just do it again the next turn if you have another one.
Yeah, he's really good for filtering your hand into just making what you want. It's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. All right, we already talked about the rival Gogeta, so we'll skip that. So this is kind of the spicy play that you told me about, and I know Frank Castle was even talking about this on the Vegeta page. This Great Saiyaman 2 is really, really cool. And at first, I've always wanted to charge red because I get the crit Vegeta or the Gogeta play or the Beerus play turn 1. But this charging a green turn 1 is so much better if you could get this combo off. So you might think, when am I going to be playing a vanilla? Like, am I going to tap 2 for Goten? That won't happen to a turn 3 because you're charging red-green, and that's 2 red. but you actually use this with your field card, which you will search a Young Invader, play it in rest mode, and it says that its skills are negated for the game, then shuffle your deck. Well, the thing is, if a card's skills are negated according to the rule book, it is still considered a skillless card. So yeah, this Vegeta has text on it, this Raditz has text on it, but if you play it on your side of the field, they don't do damage to you, which is good. At least in the mirror, wouldn't do damage to you, which is good. But then you get to just sack it for that green energy, play a 15k, and then search for that 20k. And I just run Goten because I figured might as well run a red Saiyan card so I could search it off my leader and at least get a card on the front side. But I originally had Goten at 2, but I feel like every single match I always had 1 in life. So I recently upped it up to 3, but it's still a 50 card deck because the 51st card is your field card. So 49 versus 50, no big deal.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. 3 seems like the right number. When I first put it in, I had it at 2.
Mm-hmm.
I had Great Saiyaman number 2 at 2, and as well as Goten at 2. I have Trunks, whichever vanilla I played. No, 3 is definitely correct because you really want to see this on turn 1.
Yeah.
And even if, like I said earlier, like because your leader untaps an energy,
mm-hmm.
you can just awaken, untap a green on turn 2, and then just play this if you really want. So even if you don't see it on turn 1, it's two big attacks. Like 15k and 20k on an unawakened leader is freaking huge, man.
Yep.
It's 2 damage, and then you gotta like do a little bit of damage math, right? So like you have immediately you have Young Invaders, which you're again uninteractable damage. Mm-hmm. That's like 1 or 2 damage. You have your leader attack, you have Great Saiyaman attack, you have your vanilla attack. Then on turn 2, you have Piccolo attack, you have Bardock the Resolute attack. Then you can even attack with switching gears if you want.
Yeah.
You can attack with your rival Gogeta. It's a lot of attacks coming really quick. Your opponent has to draw the negate, and if you just do like the damage math, it's a lot of damage.
Yeah, sequencing is pretty good in this deck. Like, I mean, to make this optimal, sequencing everything right has to be good, and obviously, just like there's multiple lines of play, which is nice because it's not super linear, even though you do want to repeat a lot of the same plays. But there's some games, like you said, like if I untap and awaken, well, what am I going to do? Do I want to play Great Saiyaman 2? Do I want to play the Toa? Do I want to keep that energy open for Kai or for an arrival piece? So there's multiple lines of play, and knowing what to do really will deviate the good King Vegeta player from the okay King Vegeta player.
Yeah. You gotta pick a line that you can, whichever line you think will lead you to victory. Which I usually find is attacking with Piccolo Jr.
Yeah,
that's usually a pretty good one.
It's like the back of the shampoo bottles, rinse, repeat. You know, that's what you want to do with King Piccolo as much as possible. Repeat, repeat, repeat. All right, so
exactly.
Here are my negates of choice. I'm not sure. Did you run negates in yours?
I did. Yeah, I toyed around with different variations of each. Both of these negates are very good cards because you don't actually have to pay energy for them. So you can safely. There's another thing that this deck has over launch, right? Mm-hmm. Is that you can just safely tap out and not be afraid of dying because your negates are just really good.
Yep. So the 2 negates I'm running are the Cybermen, which is really good because of when you can only use this at 5 or less life, but your leader, if you choose to awaken before 4 life, you will be at 5 life. And that makes this active every game. Like, it's really easy to have this active. And it's basically stopping 2 attacks. You negate with the first attack, free play a Cyberman token, and it is a blocker as well. And the cool thing about the Cyberman token, unlike some of the other colored versions of this card, is that it is 5k combo. So it only has blocker for the turn, but if they choose not to attack, hey, you have an extra 5k that you could just combo with. But it cannot be used as an alliance target because of tokens do not have a color. But still, it's a pretty nice card.
Yep.
And then
these every color except for black has a version of this card, mm-hmm. and sooner or later people are going to realize that these are just game warping cards. Like they're going to start changing the way that people build decks. They're going to start changing the way people play the game. I think these are some of the best cards we've gotten in a long time. Just like because they're so generic, every color plays them. Mm-hmm. And like really, when you see people build lists now, it's not uncommon to see every deck playing this card. So
Mhm.
Yeah, these cards are just they're game warping. Like if you're not playing these in literally whatever color deck, you need to start playing them because they're absolutely amazing.
Yeah, for sure. Here's the new negate, and this only works for red Saiyan, mono red Saiyan leader cards. So it works with the new Bardock, works with this King Vegeta, and it doesn't negate actually, but it chooses the attacking card ignoring barrier. Doesn't matter if it's leader, unison, or battle card with barrier. Chooses any card, and it gets minus 10k for the turn. So it's almost like a Wolfang Fist in a way. Not as strong with the minus 10 versus minus 15, but it does have like a floodgate kind of effect to it. Not as strong as Topo or Violent Rays, but every time they swing, they have to minus 5k to their leader. And the nice thing is you can use this for free at 3 or less life by discarding a card from your hand. So there's the assimilates or those Bardocks that you don't want to use. You could just discard those pretty easily. You could discard a vanilla card and be able to free play that vanilla card next turn with Videl or a Great Saiyaman too. And so there's a lot of cool plays with this. And you could do this first and then do the Cyberman, and I've done both, and it really just shuts down their turn because of they could swing 2 more times, and 2 of those attacks are going to do absolutely nothing, and then like they're just wasting cards to just try to combo over your 15k leader, unless they have some big boss cards like Dark Broly cards or just big boss guys already out. This card is going to put in work.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be very hard to die with this card. But it's essentially like a sensu beam for every single card. So
Yeah.
not only is your leader a 20k, but your Piccolo Junior is a 21k.
Mm-hmm.
Your SS Gogeta is essentially a 25k. Like
Mm-hmm.
every card is like 5k bigger, which is just like it's like a sensu beam for every single card. Which is super nice because it makes it hard. It makes it just ever so slightly harder to clear board through attacking.
And then
Again, unless Dark Broly doesn't care. Dark Broly's broken. Like they're too big. They'll attack with a 25k. They don't care. But like that's one deck. Against like Bagex, it's really good against Bagex.
looks like in my side deck I only have 13, but the other 2 are supposed to be Violent Rays. I guess they didn't go in there. But that is for those Dark Broly kind of cards. But this is a reverse Sensu Bean. And then if they do try to push through it, I mean, you have those Nappa super combos, which essentially you could use twice. So then you're making it really hard, and then they have to decide, like, hey, do I want to waste cards to keep attacking? Do I just end my turn now? Do I try to push above and try to over combo even the extra super combo that I know is on the field? And a lot of times they're just losing advantage unless you're in that like kill zone, then maybe they'll try to push through it. But also, it works with your leader card. So not only do you get a minus 10k on something, and then the 5k is additional, but you could choose something, and as long as it doesn't have barrier and it's a battle card, you can minus 10k. So essentially, you can minus 20k on that card that is attacking, or minus 15k on something else.
Yep, exactly.
And then this is a really good card. If you don't go for that turn 1 green energy play, you could run this critical Vegeta. It does have unique, so you can't play too many of them, but you could pop them with Belmont if you need to and just play another one. But it plays for only 1 red energy by bottom decking one of those invader cards, and then you get a 19k crit. You give a double strike with a Champa, and it also is basically a +1 by looking at the top 5 cards and choosing any red card that is a Saiyan of 5 or less. So you can actually pick that Gogeta rival card and your super combos. Like picking the super combos just feels so nice. But yeah, it's a good turn 1 play if you want.
Oh yeah, yep. And then, like I said, you swing on that. If your opponent has a Vegeta Young Invader, you swing your crit into their leader, it loses another 5k. You're good to go.
Yeah. And then the last card doesn't need much explaining. Probably the best secret rare of the game. I guess that's debatable, but I think no one's going to debate its top 3. I think it's number 1, but why wouldn't you want to run this? It's 1 cost energy. You're trying to kill by turn 3. So this gives you another option, either as just a 40k swing, even if you don't use the board clearing effect, but it also has a really cool activate battle effect that Meki Kabora, I know a lot of people are on it. Your teammate Juha is really crazy about that deck. But if he doesn't use his ultimate effect on turn 2 and he tries to use it from turn 3 onwards, I'll just hold this in my hand and then he'll try to give a triple strike and draw 3 cards, and I'll just do it on the first swing, and all of a sudden he wasted his leader ability essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's also a 1-mana 40k attacker, which means it's a 1 damage. Again, no one's out. Realistically, you're not going to out combo 40k.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tap 1 energy. I'm going to deal 1 damage to you, or you're going to have to use a negate on it. Either way, it's a good attacker. So yeah, card's great. I love it. It's definitely the best generic secret rare. Like Baby Hatch and Celdino are cool and all, but every single deck can play Kai. I hope you guys bought it before it went to $400. I don't know what it's at now, but hopefully it'll get a little bit cheaper here soon so more people can buy it.
I remember when it first came out, I felt bad paying 130 for it, and then like 2 weeks later, I felt really good about that. So.
Oh yeah, no, I pre-ordered it. I was like, man, this card's too good not to pre-order. So I got mine for I think 110. I have no complaints.
Now I hope Eddie doesn't kick you off the team for saying this is better than the heroin secret rare, because I know he's really big on that card.
Yeah, whatever. I do like that card. I mean, I like that it's cheap. So, again, like newer players who don't want to invest a lot of money into the game still have a relatively cheap secret rare.
Mm-hmm.
But Kai is almost always better, right?
Yeah.
There's probably very few scenarios in which Kai isn't just immediately better.
Mm-hmm.
I did try Heroin's Lineage because it is a good card. Don't get me wrong. Like, I think it's good.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm not saying it's bad.
I tried it, but it's like Kai is just better. Yeah, Kai's better.
That's another thing to point out since we're talking about that secret rare with your Piccolo Jr. If you're going for game and you don't know what their secret rare is yet, like you didn't see it from game 1, and don't go all in on Piccolo Jr. and just shotgun it. If you do, that's a bad choice because they're just going to steal your Piccolo Jr. and then you wasted your whole hand. And
well, your opponent, you have to be so. Yeah, if you're on turn 2, they can't even lineage it because your opponent has to be a 3 energy. So he's safe on turn 2 to go in, which is just another reason why. It's just another reason you want to play. You want to jam Piccolo on 2 and swing with it because. Yeah, I would be pissed though if someone stole my Piccolo Jr. With lineage and then they use Alliance against me. Yeah, I'd be pissed. Not gonna lie.
I did it. Actually, my teammate Brandon did that in the Untapped tournament. He's actually he was on King Piccolo and he actually did really good with King Piccolo. I think he won like the national. What was the national team thing online that people did a few months ago? I don't know.
I have no clue.
Basically, like he's going to represent the U.S. team, but he won that with King Piccolo, so he knows the deck really well, and he ran that secret rare, and he did steal my Piccolo Jr. But I was aware. I'm like, hey, I can't go all in just in case because I didn't know which secret rare he was running, and he did try doing that on me. But as big of a deck King Piccolo is, this deck I just felt steamrolled it because they start at 6 life. They technically have 7 life because they awaken, but you're doing so much damage so quickly that they're at a huge disadvantage in that matchup.
Yeah, I stopped playing King Piccolo for a while because I actually just don't know. That's a matchup I haven't tested.
Yeah. And then just quickly looking at my side, I like this Vegeta, the full power one, because you could evolve it on either one of your Vegetas in this deck. And this is more of like a mid-range kind of just subtracting power, making sure you are not going to die, making sure your opponent has to play awkwardly. And then you can burn them if they try killing it, which on those like baby matchups, sometimes getting those extra burn damages at 2 life, they might stay at 2 life forever because the Piccolo Jr. is not burning anymore. So this might do burn damage, and Baby does go wide. They play the long game and then they build a board, but this will make it harder for them to build a board or have their board be effective.
Yep. It's just a really good card.
Yeah. Denial of Hope, Invoker. There's just some cards you want to counterplay, especially against Baby. If they hit a Floodgate, maybe you just want to hit their Floodgate.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's my Unison package. Playing the Black Massane, which works really well with this leader, and plus it's a good 1-cost Unison because you want to try to get Piccolo Jr. in this version of the deck. You don't want to try to go for a 2-cost Unison because of then you have to charge 2 red on turn 2 for that to happen.
Yeah.
which
Yeah, you want to be able to establish your unison and also play Piccolo Jr. on two.
mm-hmm.
So you play this one because it costs one energy. Yeah, I agree. And then this unison just gains so many markers so quickly, man.
Mm-hmm.
This thing gets so big so quick. It's pretty cool.
Yep, and then works with your invaders and everything like that. So it's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then running the Yamcha too, just helping control that board. This Gohan, it works with our leader because it is a mono red Saiyan leader, so there's only a handful of leaders that it does work with. But this does require 2 green to be charged, and you have to get to later turns. So this is for those grindier matchups or for those like control matchups. It has deflect and barrier, so this card is hitting the board. The only thing that I think that actually hit it is the ape counterplay because that one ignores barrier, and it's an
Yeah,
auto
they can
effect.
ape counterplay in counter window 2, and then select this with its auto, which ignores barrier.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I had that happen to me, so it felt pretty bad.
Yeah,
But
that sucks.
typically, if you play this, you're playing this when they only have 1 life, and you're just sealing the game with that.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, yeah, like I said, you're not killing baby on 2. You're gonna probably go to turn 4, and
Mhm.
this card is like you can also baby's not gonna have a big board, so it's gonna prevent them from playing battle cards. And
Mhm.
then this also deals with the Majin Buu unison really well because this has barrier. They can't kill it with Majin Buu, so
That's a good
really good
point.
card against baby. And any slower matchup where you just know you're not gonna win on turn 2, like Mega Frieza, you'll be straight. This card's really good.
Yep. And then 2 violent rays, which I didn't put in here, self-explanatory. SSB Goku, fairly self-explanatory. Board swipe or barrier hate. And then I run 1 max power, mostly for like, I mean, this could hit the Demigra, the Dark Overrealm one, but it's also really for Sin Shenron, or it can
Yeah.
hit a lot of targets, but it has very versatile effects. You can even use it against Reboot Gohan for an extra negate.
Oh yeah, no, it's just a really Max Power is super good generic card. All the way back in set 10, I was like, this is the best card in the game. But like, it's still really good.
Now, any suggestions what you would change or how your deck has changed since you've built your version?
Yeah, no, I mean this is pretty spot on. Like I said, the only thing I really did was I'm just at 4 invaders now, and I don't quite remember what our. I think I'm just running certain cards at a higher ratio instead of the additional invaders, but like I think I played triple assimilate and maybe like one other card. But oh yeah, I play 4 Vegeta to the next level. But like it's such a minor change. It's not super relevant.
Mm-hmm.
I think the deck again, like I said, I'm honestly just being cheap because I don't really want to buy 4 Raditz because I
Yeah.
don't. I already have to buy 4 Piccolo Jr. That's gonna hurt my wallet. So like I don't want
Yeah.
to also have to buy 4 Raditz. So or yeah, I also have to buy the switching gears. So it's like I'm just trying to make this deck a little bit cheaper for myself. It's really not that big of a deal.
Yeah, unfortunately, this deck does have a lot of promos. It's a lot less than if you build the mono red, probably, because I think there's a lot more promos with that version. I haven't tested that version out myself. But we're going to just quickly look at suggestions. I'm not going to go into too much detail with these just because the video is already running long enough as it is. But these are ideas that I came up with, and Giancarlo even added a few of them. Some of them are probably a little bit more janky or kind of like very situational, but if you want to kind of cater it to like more of a mid-range, or if you want to side some of these or switch the deck up a little bit to a different play style, these are options. So first one, SS3 Goku, one hit wonder. It's a free play basically with your leader. um, Tactical Victory Vegeta. It costs 1 green, so it's not hard to play in your deck. It really is going to be for those longer matchups, but there's some leaders that have field cards that are very, very strong. Like this leader, for example, is one of them. I don't know if you would really want to pop this if you play the mirror, if you want to pop their leader's field, but if you do, you kind of cripple their deck. But this could also be really bad against Baby as long as they don't counterplay it. But if you pop their field card, now they actually have to play the game fairly.
Exactly. Yeah. If I'm
Clone
going
tokens.
first game 2 or 3, then I'm definitely siding the Sin against Baby because then if they are 1 energy, they can't even counterplay it. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm definitely siding the Sin against Baby.
You could even use it against the clone token deck. This
Oh
Goku,
yeah, big time.
this Goku. If I had the room, I would try to put this in here. This is probably more for the mono red version, but this is kind of reminds me of the Goku hit red yellow or no blue yellow one. Essentially, like you could swing and untap it at the end of the turn, and then you get 2 blocks out of it. It's 19k, so it's not too easy to kill. Um, but pay 1 for a 19k is not bad at all.
No, he's actually really good. But yeah, like you said, he probably fits better in the mono.
Yeah. So here we have the King Vegeta Hidden Ambitions. It's a counter finally for red. Well, actually, red had a red yellow version of a counter, but we're not running red yellow, and very few people actually are. But this works with our leader. But unfortunately, with this card, it is so specific. I've never seen a more specific card than this. But it will be good against your blue matchups, or if they're running Power Burst or something like that. Or there's a bunch actually of free negates out there. Grand Eagle, Dormant Potential. There's a bunch of them. So this could come into play, but I would say this is a side deck card at best. Then we got Beerus Ball, self-explanatory. Could go Piccolo Unison. Go Wolfang Fist. You could go Kaba's Awakening. That's mostly just you could do it on one of your 19Ks to get your Heartfelt Plea play out if you really want to go that route. And this Heartfelt Plea is searchable off the Crit Vegetas, so that's kind of nice. All right, guys, sorry about that. We got cut off. Giancarlo got cut off at Discord. But we're going to just finish this real quick because the video is already going pretty long. Now, you might see here this cooler. This cooler is actually really good. Most people are going to be playing it in green decks, but we do run green, and it only costs 1 green. Now, this is kind of, I'm kind of iffy about it, but you could probably get this to work if you really want, or if the format really makes this card really good, because it's not leader locked, so you don't have to have a green leader for this, but you do have to pay 4 for this, 1 green. But the thing is, you can reduce its cost by having green extra cards in your battle area or drop area. So you're going to probably use your drop area because you're not going to be playing green field cards. So here are just some ideas of green extra cards you could run in the deck if you like. The best one probably being this Parasitic Ball. It's just 5k combo. Easily gets in the drop. Costs 0 energy. But I found some cheap ones. Unfortunately, with green, most of them are leader locked. But here are some of the generic ones. We got Mafuba. Here is Mafuba. I mean, it's situational, but you could use it with your with your Piccolo Jr. or with your Kami out. But it kind of feels too situational for it to actually probably work out. This one's actually pretty good. Pretty black hole. Negates. Gets rid of the field. Draw a card. So this is a pretty generic negate that you could run. You could run... this is kind of like Slumber. I forget what the card is called. Something Slumber. It has Beerus on it. You can't use 2 out of 3 of these effects, but you can use the second effect, which is choose one of your opponent's battle cards with 4 or less and KO it. So it's better than that Slumber card I was just referring to, because that one's 3 or less. But then this one also costs 1, but you could choose a 4 or less and KO it. So it's just generic removal if you want. And then we have Heart Arrow of Love, activate battle. It has to be on a green battle card or leader card. So you're really probably just using it on your multicolor cards or a few the green, like maybe Videl. But you get plus 1,000 for the attack, and then you choose up to 2 of your opponent's battle cards that cost 3 or less and KO them. So it is almost like a combo card. It costs energy, plus you get removal out of that. And we also have King Vegeta Surprise Attack. This card got nerfed when they changed the rulings for Revenge. Basically, Revenge has to be on the card before it is chosen as, or when it's being chosen as the attack target. And unfortunately, this happens on Activate Battle. So if it gains Revenge after it was chosen as the attack target, Revenge doesn't really apply. But this could be a nice little combo that you use with this Goku over here, because yeah, you won't be able to get Revenge on the first block, but he restands, and then he gets that 10k for the turn, so 29 will be really hard to kill, and then it's going to make them play awkwardly, or maybe just stop their turn because they don't want to have a Revenge hit one of their battle cards. So it could work out. And then the last one is just Father Son Kamehameha. It's kind of like Max Power Kamehameha, but not as good. But it's a green card to get removal. So those are generic ones. If you really wanted to try to get cooler to work, even if you just paid 2 for it, it wouldn't be that bad. But again, you're probably gonna have to play a lot more green. But the reason why I include it in here because it is a nice card, and you could get it to work if you really wanted to build a deck a little bit more around this card. After image, negate, it's free, and it works with your leader by minusing 10k, and then another 10k from your leader effect. Topo, Floodgate, nothing more to say about that. This Vegeta you could use to get more attacks from your leader card. You could also use the Activate Battle to subtract 10k from something, plus your leader card's 10k, so you're subtracting 20k. So it helps with aggro and for your defense. What else? Talked about Heartfelt. You could play this Gogeta if you run, if your Gokus and Vegetas do match with the same attack power, and you could really get this guy off, which is really good with the leader card as well, because then you're minusing 30k off something or 20k and a 10k. So I mean they're all Goku BRs and Vegeta BRs, so this does work with this card if you want to build around that. This Frieza, if you're playing a 2-cost unison like the Piccolo unison, it's really nice. But it is 2 red, so you're probably not going to be able to get this out to at least turn 3. But it does subtract anything from ignoring barrier by 30k if they do a counter effect once per turn. And then you could also use your leader effect to minus something else by 10. Frieza, just more minusing power. It draws, so like you're playing it, drawing a card, just letting it sit there. And then you can use this alongside your leader effect to minus things and keep defense or offense. Just making sure that you are going to be pushing through. This also does hit leader cards, which is kind of nice. Broly Crown, against those baby matchups or any blue matchup really. Exploiting Vegeta gives your leader a Sensu Bean, clears their board. Talked about this card already. This works with your leader card again, subtracting something by 1,000, ignoring barrier. This can hit striving to be the best Son Goku, which does stop your Piccolos from actually attacking any further. So this is a nice little answer to that. It's critical too. And then if you play this in the late game against blue or green or something where they're just dormant potentialing you or just negating a bunch, this can burn them for damage. You got this guy if you're playing a Unison package, just more aggro for free. This is one of the other switching gear cards. I found it underwhelming, but it does work with your leader card, but you do have to bottom deck a card, so it's okay. But you could also use this and go through the Goku chain with the Vegeta package, and that's about everything going through that really quick. If you stuck through it this far, appreciate it. It was very in-depth, so hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, but I do apologize if it was a little long. But thank you for stopping by. Have a good one, everybody, and stay loco.